In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to mix a couple of tracks together using Audacity, and we're going to do it in a few different ways. Let's start off with the most simple way. Let's say that you have a track here, we've got a bit of music, we can just play this. Oh yes, it's very cultured. This is Mozart's Fourth Horn Concerto. Now let's say we want to add a second track onto the end, so we have an elongated audio track. Well, first of all we need to import some audio. So go to Project and choose Import Audio, and we'll bring in our second file. Okay, there we go. We can just slide these up the screen so we can see a bit clearer. So we now have two audio files, our first track and our new imported second track. Trouble is, if we play these now, then it doesn't really play very smoothly. In fact, both tracks are playing at the same time and it's a bit painful on the ears. I think we'll stop that. So to remove that effect, we need to shift the second track along until the end of the first track. To do that, just grab the time shift tool, that's the little left and right arrow, and then just drag the second track along the screen until you get to the end of the first track. There we go. Now if we start the end of the first track, just play that last little bit. The first track comes to an end and the second track should begin. But there was a bit of an awkward pause there between the two. Let's get the zoom tool and we'll have a closer look and see what's going on there. Okay, so although I've actually managed to get these more or less one beginning and one ending, there's an area of silence at the end of one track and a little area of silence at the beginning of the other, and that gives you that awkward pause between tracks. So all we need to do is to get the time shift tool again, and let's just move this track a little bit further in so the end of one audio matches and starts the beginning of the second. Okay, so let's just play that little bit. So now there's no gap between one stopping and one starting, and that gives a much smoother finish. Fine, but what if you want to record an audio where you want not the entire track but just a little bit of it? So we'll close these two down and we'll import a new piece of audio. There we go. Okay, so I've got a new piece of audio here. Let's just give a little whirl to that one. And what I'd like to do is to keep the first minute or so of this audio track and then lose the rest and put a completely different bit of audio on after the first minute. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring the cursor to around about a minute and listen to the audio until I hear a bit where I want it to stop playing. So let's press the play button. And when you got to the bit you want to fade out or stop, we'll just hit the pause button. Now let's see, it's hard to tell on the wide zoom where you are on the audio track, so I'm going to get the zoom tool and just go in a little bit closer and keep watching my little green arrow here. So we're about 1 minute and 4 seconds in. Now I actually wanted it just before I hit the pause, I was a bit slow, so I'm going to get my little selection tool and click about 1 minute and 2. So my cursor now goes through the 1 minute 2 second point, which for my ear was where I want to stop this track. Come up to Edit and choose Select and then go Cursor to End, and that'll select everything from where you put your cursor, in my case 1 minute 2 seconds, all the way to the end of the audio, which is way off the end of the screen. Then all we need to do now is to go to Edit and Delete. Except you can't, because one of the quirks of Audacity is if you have your file paused, you can't get to anything under Edit. So just click the stop button instead, and then we'll go back to Edit, and now you'll find you can pick up Delete without any problems at all. Okay, so that's deleted the track down to 1 minute and 2 seconds. Let's bring another piece of audio in. We'll go to Project, Import Audio, and I'll bring the second piece of audio in as well. Now automatically zooms out for you, which is kind of handy sometimes and kind of irritating at other times, but not to worry. Now you can see that this particular track is quite a lot louder than the first track. Again, if we played it without doing anything to it, it would play both tracks at the same time, and it's really not what we want. So we'll use the same trick as we did before. We'll get the time shift tool and we'll just shift time along around about there, and we'll zoom in nice and close just like we did before, just so we can make sure that these two overlap slightly, and we'll just shuffle it in so the end of one audio becomes the beginning of the next, and that should play through without any pauses in between. Ooh, but it's a bit of an awkward jump from one track to another. We really need to do something to our first track to try and soften the join down. And for that we're going to use another tool on the toolbar, this one up here with the top up and down arrows with a blue line through the middle. It's called the envelope tool, and if you click that you'll find blue bars appear on every bit of audio. Now the envelope tool will allow you to make bits of your track louder and quieter, but you need to do a bit of work. What I want to do is to fade out the end of the first track. So I'm simply going to put a little point, a little click, around about a minute on my timeline, so just a few sort of inches away from the end of the track, and that's a holder, so when I do the next bit it won't damage anything behind that. You'll see what I mean when I do this. So I'm going to put a click at the end of my audio track, okay, and then squeeze it down, and can you see from where I put my first click to where I put my last click, I've now squashed the sound down like so, and all the way down until it becomes silent. Okay, we'll go back to the time shift tool because we'll need to shift the time in slightly because we now have a bit of silence there. And whilst we're here, let's go back to the envelope tool and fade in the beginning of this track as well. So same trick, we'll put a little click, make sure we don't make it any quieter, there we are, and then a click right at the beginning in this case, and we'll just squeeze that down like so, so that will fade in the volume. And again we'll just overlap the two like that. And if we move the little selection point a wee bit back, and we'll play those two together. And there you go. So that faded smoother from one track to another, and that should give you a nice seamless join, just using the envelope tool and trimming the track to length.